you ever wondered why some women say nothing, yet their silence feels louder than any words? Why a glance, a pause, or an unanswered message can cut deeper than anger and leave a man restless, questioning himself in the dead of night? Carl Jung believed that silence is never empty. It is the place where the unconscious speaks without permission. A woman's silence, then, is not absence. It is communication in its most dangerous form. For the man who does not understand, it becomes torture. For the man who understands, it becomes revelation. Some women hide their fears behind silence. Some conceal their desires. Others cloak their tests, their longing to know whether a man will break or rise. When she grows quiet, it is rarely because nothing is felt. On the contrary, it is because too much is. And here is where men are trapped. You, yes, you, were taught to chase words, to seek clarity, to demand explanations. But a woman's psychology is not a courtroom. It is a labyrinth. If you storm through demanding answers, you will miss the deeper truth. Silence is her way of watching whether your center is strong or fragile. Jung called it projection, the tendency to cast hidden parts of ourselves onto others. A woman's silence often hides her own shadows, the doubts, the wounds, the old betrayals she cannot yet name. But to a man who does not know himself, this silence feels like rejection. And so he reacts, he accuses, he clings, he collapses. This is where many men lose their power. They treat a woman's silence as a mirror of their worth, instead of recognizing it as a mirror of her soul. You must understand, her silence is not always about you. Sometimes it is her battle with herself. Sometimes it is her test of you. Sometimes it is simply the language of the feminine, mysterious, nonlinear, unsettling, but not meaningless. The man who cannot stand silence is a man who has not faced his own. For what you cannot bear in her, you cannot bear in yourself. Jung would say it is your shadow, the insecurity, the hunger for validation, the fear of abandonment. If you try to escape it, you will always be enslaved by it. But if you face it, you become unshakable. A woman's silence then becomes less of a riddle and more of a canvas. You no longer rush to paint it with your fears. You allow her the space to reveal herself in her own time. You stop needing to fill the void. And paradoxically, that is when she begins to speak. Not with words, but with respect, with desire, with trust. The greatest paradox is this. When you stop trying to decode her silence, she becomes unable to stay silent around you. Because the man who does not chase, who does not beg, who does not break, that man awakens her feminine energy, not by force, but by presence. Think of the Stoics who warned that what disturbs us is never the thing itself, but our judgment of it. Her silence is not your enemy. Your own reaction is. If you feel chaos when she withdraws, it means chaos already lived inside you. If you remain grounded, you reveal to her a rare strength, the strength of a man who is not swayed by storms. So what do women truly hide behind silence? Sometimes longing, sometimes fear, sometimes nothing at all but the need to be understood without being interrogated. It is not for you to solve immediately. It is for you to hold, to withstand, to mirror strength instead of insecurity. The empowered man understands this. A woman's silence is not the end of the story. It is an invitation, not to chase her, not to demand her, but to confront himself. When you conquer your own neediness, her silence loses its power over you. And when her silence loses power, your presence begins to speak louder than her absence. In the end, the man who understands a woman's silence is the man who has befriended his own. He does not crumble. He does not chase. He does not lose himself in guessing games. He stands, calm and unwavering. And that is why she returns. Not to a man desperate to know what she hides, but to a man who no longer fears what is hidden. Because the man who commands himself never begs to be understood. He becomes undeniable.